I wanted to go to Disney World. I wanted to get the hat that said my name on it with the Mickey Mouse ears. I wanted to take my kids for 7 days to be there, to go to every single park, to take all the pictures, to not have to worry about where my next paycheck was going from, not to have to worry about saying no to any souvenirs that they wanted to do. I wanted to do all of the experiences. Welcome to the Business Coffee Hour with William Garay Jr. This episode, I'd like to dive right into finances. I don't think we talk enough about them, and there's many ways that we can tackle and take charge of our finances. I like to use the acronym FOCUS, follow one course until success. There's many ways that you can do that. I'm going to share with you what I've done, what I think works. Hopefully you agree, you can try some of those ways out. If not, find something that works for you. I like to talk about money. I read a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad a few years back. And the one thing that I really took away from that was rich people talk about money and poor people don't. If I want to get better at finances and I want more money, I should focus on it. I should talk about it. I should be aware of it. I should stay curious about it. Now, some of the fact is that 50% of Americans don't have a budget that they follow. 50%. Half of us aren't using one. And the truth be told, I was part of it, right? I didn't know exactly where my money was going. I was on a consistent pay basis. First, 15th. And I knew what bills I had on the first and what bills I had on the 15th. And I said, as long as I was working, as long as that money kept hitting, then I'd be fine. That was my financial plan. Of course, that was when I was on active duty. I left the military, and Lord have mercy, was I in for a rude awakening because I didn't have those things. I wasn't sure where my next paycheck was going. I worked at a free will state, which means I could lose my job at any time. Could also leave my job at any time, but it works both ways. I didn't know where my next paycheck was going, and none of us, absolutely nobody, was could predict what was coming in that year of 2020. So when I really dug into it and I wanted to find more out about finances, I started reading books. Rich Dad Poor Dad was a huge light for me. But the second book I read was A Total Money Makeover by Dave Ramsey. And yes, I became a Ramsey coach because of it. And yes, I love a lot of the things that he says. I love a lot of the Ramseyisms. But truth be told, I think for me, the best steps are the first 3. I think there's other ways that you can go and you can build your wealth, but the way he explains things and his plan will get you to your goal, which for me is that freedom. It was financial freedom. My wife and I, when we started our baby steps, had $75,000 in debt. I've said it at many of the classes I give or the seminars that we hold. That was my number. I had to own it. On average, Americans make $59,000 a year. Where I was just drowning that debt. I was barely making ends meet. I was living paycheck to paycheck. As a matter of fact, they say 78% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. So if we don't have enough of our savings, we don't have a good plan for where our money's going, at any moment, we could miss that one paycheck and be in a world of hurt. 66% of Americans would struggle to pay for a $1,000 emergency. Like $1,000, that's where we're at. And for me, I had this experience not too long ago. I drive a little red Honda Civic. It's a manual transmission, and I was at a light and it just died on me. And I knew what it was. If you drive manual cars, you know exactly what happened. My alternator went out, which means my battery wasn't charging, so I couldn't start it back. Because of that, I had to get a tow, $250. After that tow, to get the alternator fixed and change the battery, it was $650 for that. So that's $900 down the drain in one single day. But thankfully, I was working the baby steps and I was able to avert that emergency. So Dave Ramsey's baby steps helped me get to where I am now. My wife and I were actually debt free. We only owe the mortgage on our house. The money I make from our business, the money I make from my retirement gives us a life to where we don't need to take out debt. Now, here's where I differ from Ramsey a little bit. I'm now in a situation where if I were to take out debt, not that I have yet, but I would, if I were to take out some debt or a loan, I'm not as worried about it as I was before because when I take out a loan, if I do, it will be to buy an asset. And this is what we call good debt and bad debt. Now, that is controversial to what Ramsey says. Ramsey says all debt is bad debt. And I tend to agree. I haven't taken that step yet. All debt is not created equal. It depends on who you follow, what you like, where you're headed. What I can tell you is that working Ramsey's baby steps has given me that freedom to do the things that I love to do, that I like to do, and that I want to do on my terms. How I did that was because I went from not having a budget to talking about my budget all the time with my wife and then talking about money all of the time. Now, I'm not trying to stay and gloat and say, hey, this is where I'm spending my money. Look at all that I have. I just had a plan for it. And that's all your budget is. Your budget is a plan on paper, on purpose. And I use an exact notebook just like this, happens to be this one, that I wrote down every single day what my budget was going to be. And I would look at my bank account and I would carry my bills around with me to say, this is what I'm working towards. If you're a fan of Simon Sinek, he says, "Start with why." I carried my why with me a lot too. I wrote it down on my mirror. My why for getting out of debt was to go to Disney World. I wanted to go to Disney World. I wanted to get the hat that said my name on it with the Mickey Mouse ears. I wanted to take my kids for 7 days to be there, to go to every single park, to take all the pictures, to not have to worry about where my next paycheck was going from, not to have to worry about saying no to any souvenirs that they wanted to do. I wanted to do all of the experiences. And honestly, there's no way you can do everything in Disney in 4 days. It's like amazing. But that was my goal. I wrote it down. I focused on it. That was the purpose of me working so hard, of me getting in control of my finances. And I am happy to report that in October of this past year of 2022, we did do just that. We went down to Disney. It was a fantastic time. You wanna talk about leadership and having a vision and entrepreneurship and being a human, visit Disney. That man had a vision, and, he's got the right people in place now to make sure that that living legacy is there. But I digress. Make sure you have a plan. Now for me, again, it was about getting a budget, being aware all my money is coming in, and then being aware of where every single thing is going. As a Ramsey coach, it was tracking every dollar. There is an app out there. That's what he uses. Every dollar. It will help you do that. Track every single dollar that comes in. Because if you don't, something's gonna come about and take that money. If you're not aware of it, it'll just walk its way out. So naming every single dollar is powerful. And I'm not saying you can't buy nice things. One of the things my wife and I did in our budget, we made sure we had a personal or fun money, and this is where I learned that I'm the spender. No surprise there. I have a fancy mustache. I wanna make sure I buy the nice waxes and I look nice. And then I've got 4 kids, and so every time they're around, I like spending money on them. It's no surprise. My wife's a saver, of course. Over time, our fun money every month that we got, she went and bought an iWatch for her birthday, right? Those things aren't cheap. But that's what she wanted. She worked for it. She earned it, and she made a plan to execute on this. Finances, when it comes to your health, they play a part in your morning routine. They should be a part of your goals. They should be how you focus. They should be part of your work-life balance. If you can take charge of your finances, then you can really hunker down and you are blocking out that like third of your life. takes away a lot of the worries. Now, Dave Ramsey is very open. There's a lot of free resources out there. I highly encourage you. I recommend that you go to his sites and use those things because they are proven and they work. Granted, I'm an entrepreneur. I like to do things a little bit differently, but I did those first 3 steps and I worked them hard. I followed one course until success. I focused on just doing that plan, and it worked for me. It allowed me the time and the freedom to do the things that I do now. But for those 2 years, I grinded and I found every single way possible to make extra money and to accomplish my goal of getting into Disney. There's many folks out there who will tell you other ways to do it, and I'm sure that they work. I really am. I think everybody has the right idea, but there's no way you're going to do this quickly. There's no way you're going to get out of where you are as fast as you think unless you make some sacrifices and you focus down on what your goal is. Biggest way out of debt, the biggest way for you to get out of the hole you've dug is to stop digging. So if you have debt, you've got to stop using those credit cards. You've got to start using those payday loans. And I know it's hard and I know it may take some routine and some sacrifices, but you can do it. So the first thing you have to do, you have to stop digging. But another thing you can do is you can get a bigger shovel to fill that hole. So I was working my 9 to 5 job, and then we were also finding ways for us to make more money. Garage selling, flipping things, selling stuff, whatever we had to do to get out of our debt. That's what we were doing. And we were talking about it and we were cutting things out. As much as we enjoyed eating out, we did it. As much as we enjoyed the niceties, the cable, we cut it all out. Finances is such an important part of our health, of being able to be a good leader, to be that entrepreneur, that you have to take charge of it now. If you are interested in more, I'm happy to talk to you. You can find me at William at charliemikethepodcast.com. That's my email. You can follow along on socials. I've talked about the Dave Ramsey baby steps. I've given classes on this. I love talking about it because I believe it works if you work them. So you can follow along at WGARAYJR. That's at W Garay Jr. on all my socials. I hope that you will follow along. I'm always talking about this stuff because I really believe in it. It helped me get to where I am now. It gave me good habits, gave me the freedom to do these things. I hope you find value. I appreciate you guys following along. If this has been helpful, let us know. Follow along with the page. Share me a shout out. Leave a review if you think that this works. You know what? Leave a review if you found a better way because I'm open and I want to listen. I want to hear other ways to make good money because that's what it's about. It's about sharing that information. It's about making one another better. I thank you for joining us. And until next time, I love you guys.